And you can turn off your camera too, if you'd like. And those are the little microphone button and the little handle at the bottom of your screen. Now, please stay muted throughout the presentation today. And if you have questions, throw them into the chat box because we will answer them towards the end. But before, oh, thank you, Jessica. And we are recording this presentation. So if you would like to, go back and either share it, revisit it, not only will this recording be found on our website, but we'll also email it to you along with the presentation. And there's hot links all throughout the talk today. So whenever I provide a resource or a contact, all those blue hot links will be available to you to just click right on that hot link and you'll be able to get that information. But before we dig in, I don't know about you guys, but here in Richmond, it is a little dark and gloomy today. So in the chat, throw the first word that comes into your mind when I say the word spring. Tulips. Forward, exciting. Forward is happening this weekend, Glenn. It always takes me a couple days to get adjusted to losing that hour. Flowers, warmth. St. Paul Main Street, hurry. And that butterflies, I saw some butterflies this weekend. Bird singing, and Kimberly, bird singing is awesome right now, but in the summer when they start singing at 5 a.m., it's joyful, but a very different way. For me, it's light, right? Like having more light in the days getting longer, because it's all about moving forward and the feeling of possibility. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit today is entrepreneurial ecosystems and the possibility of being able to create healthy entrepreneurial ecosystems by injecting capital in them. But before we get into that, if you guys are not familiar with the Department of Housing and Community Development, we are a state agency and we are committed to creating safe, affordable, and prosperous communities to live, work, and do business in. And we predominantly do that by providing funding as well as technical assistance to nonprofit organizations, municipalities, community development financial institutions, housing organizations, and a wide variety of other partners all throughout the state. So that is what DHCD is here for. Now, the Microfinance Division is all a part of the Community Development and Economic Vitality Office. The three programs that we're going to be digging into today are the the Virginia Small Business Resiliency Fund, the Community Business Launch, and the Virginia Individual Account Program. However, under the EDCV office, we have our Enterprise Zone, Industrial Revitalization Fund, and our Port Host Communities Funds. That's all about revitalizing infrastructure. Also, our Virginia Main Street Initiative, as well, and Go Virginia. So those are all ways of providing tools, access to funding, as well as technical assistance to organizations all throughout the state. But what we're really focused on is all of those ways to revitalize and keep communities healthy is with an eye on a robust flow of money through entrepreneurship and economic development. So, but today we're talking about entrepreneurial ecosystems. So if you ask 14 entrepreneurial ecosystem builders, you're going to get 20 different answers on what an entrepreneurial ecosystem is. So really quickly throw in the chat on what you think an ecosystem is and who are the players in them. I have a sneaking suspicion that everybody on this webinar today is a builder and you just don't know it. Everybody plays. Yes, Annette. You're absolutely right. Really, the essence of an entrepreneurial ecosystem is its people, right? Is its people, and a combination of culture is really about, it's magical math. Combining those two things in order to build trust and collaboration that allows us to interact successfully. And infused in that is collaboration, respect, trust, friendship. Those are all parts of what an entrepreneurial ecosystem is. Kind of an old school way of looking at it is are the community leaders, developers, economic development agencies and offices, investors. But we really want to kind of pull that and have a wider, broader approach. Because one of the things that is really central to an entrepreneurial ecosystem are the entrepreneurs themselves. And so we need to make sure they're at the table. And entrepreneurs take a wide variety of places at the table. So they're the big capital S startup. So they are this small S solopreneur that are running their businesses in their basements. So we want to make sure that there is room for everybody. But not only is it everybody, but there are 7 principles that entrepreneurial ecosystem builders use. And so as we're going through using the resources that DHCD, specifically the Microfinance office, has to use, keep these principles in mind, because all of these principles need to be intact with building an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And those 7 are putting the entrepreneurs front and center. You have to have your artists and your musicians and your bookkeepers and accountants and your coffee shop entrepreneurs at the table. And all of our solutions need to be designed with entrepreneurs in mind. Foster conversation. We need to move knowledge from the people that have it to the people who need it. We also need to enlist collaborators. Just like Annette said, everyone is invited. So really being able to not only make those connections and fostering really great listening and building fantastic relationships, and also kind of build bridges between the different types of builders in our communities, because so many times there are silos, and you guys know exactly what I mean. There are silos and kind of walls put up between folks, and we need to have open and engaging conversations. Number 4 is we need to live our values. We need to be open. We need to be hospitable. We need to be biased towards action and build trust. But the other thing that we need to do is dream big. Connect people bottom up, top down, and outside in. Again, this is not a hierarchical system. What we needed to do is, again, be building bridges between the folks that may not talk well to each other or about each other, and really have those connections based on hope and moving forward. What we also want to do is tell our communities authentic stories. That can be through having those conversations. It can be through potlucks. It can be through webinars. It can be through blogs and Facebook postings. And it could be having a radio show at your local radio station. And for ecosystem builders, if those vehicles for telling our authentic stories aren't there, it's up to us to create those platforms and the environment in which those stories can thrive. And last but not least is we need to be smart and we need to start and be patient. Don't get overwhelmed with trying to go from A to Q, just like our entrepreneurs do, in one big step. We need to go from A into B, and then maybe C. But having all of those other 6 principles giving us a foundation is what we need to move forward. So any questions about this? Is a little bit you'll be seeing this in some subsequent conversations that we'll be having throughout the year, is what are ecosystems, being able to create a common language about what those ecosystems are, and the principles in which give us the foundation to help our economies thrive. So one of the things I want you guys to think a little bit about while we're having these discussions today, and I want to go back and answer these questions later, but while you're listening to me talking about the different vehicles that capital is used in entrepreneurial ecosystems to help our businesses. We also have a couple of guest speakers. Leah she's representing Bridging Virginia today, and Annette from the Advancement Foundation is going to be talking about a couple of our CBL, Community Business Launch, and our Virginia Individual Development Account programs. But after they speak, I want to come back to these questions and have a discussion about them. So there are four. What kinds of funding what kinds of funding for businesses do you have? Do you have access to loan funds? Do you have a CDFI? Is there no access to capital? Is that working? What are the gaps to needs that you have, and how can DHCD help? So we're going to come back and have a conversation about how to answer those questions. So as I said a moment ago, I am the program manager for DHCD's Microfinance department. This is a brand new initiative where DHCD is putting together the Virginia Small Business Resiliency Fund, our Community Business Launch Initiative, and the Virginia Individual Development Account Program. So we have found that microfinance is a fantastic vehicle for small scale ways, access to capital. So we're talking about small microloans that are $50,000 or less. We're talking about small grants like our VITA initiative that offer $4,000 grants to help people build wealth through a homeownership or starting a business. But microfinance is also ways to get access to capital that are left out of our traditional monetary system for the most part. Most of our folks that want microfinance, the small s startup capital, can't get it at a mainstream financial institution. So we're going to introduce Cdfi Is to you today as well. But we really feel like microfinance is a tool that helps communities and small businesses thrive while allowing money to be reinvested in local businesses and neighborhoods where it is needed most. Because small chunks of capital can be pivotal. It can be kind of magical as well. So Leah's going to talk a little bit about Bridging Virginia in a few minutes. Bridging Virginia was got a grant through the Virginia Small Business Resiliency Fund. That started this year to help fund emerging and existing community development financial institutions across the state of Virginia, to help communities and businesses throughout the state become much more resilient after COVID-19. So it was grants specifically to entrepreneurs through Cdfi Is in order to help those communities recover. Specifically with our eye on businesses that are owned and operated by women, people of color, and immigrants. How many of you guys know what a Cdfi is? I know some of you probably had that question. Cdfis are financial institutions that drive non-predatory capital to low wealth communities. But what does that really mean? It means that Cdfis are nonprofits that are nimble enough to take traditional financial tools to create innovative products and initiatives to help people build wealth. These tools are created to weave in integrity and respect into every single thing that they do. Cdfis are certified through the Department of Treasury to offer as financially stable and mission forward initiatives like banks and credit unions and loan funds and capital firms. And Virginia has more than 20 Cdfis, and we're on track to build more in the future. Right now, there's been about, $93.4 million of loans and other infusions of capital to businesses throughout the Commonwealth by Virginia Cdfis. That's no joke. Cdfis are really here to offer that support, assistance, and capital to the folks who need it the most. And Virginia is one of 3 states that has a Cdfi coalition. Again, that's going to be a hot link, so you guys can learn more about that. Not only myself, but Leah are members of the Cdfi coalition, so you'll learn a little bit more about that potentially in a minute. Oops. The other part, or the second program of microfinance, is the Virginia Individual Development Account Program. VITA is a matched savings program to help people of modest means buy their first home or get access to risk-free capital for their startup business or to help their business grow. The way that it's currently structured, as someone can save $500 and get an 8-to-1 match. So you get a $4,000 grant in order to go directly to help with buying a home and starting or expanding a small business. And I also wanted to let you know, this is very educationally driven. And again, it's another fantastic initiative. By learning about individual development accounts, I know it not only changed my career trajectory with that magical math. Today's a very magical day. I keep saying that. But it's a way to get access to capital. We talked about the 8-to-1 match. But it's also infused with education and support. Every single person who goes through the VITA initiative has to take financial literacy. And everybody also has to take what's called asset-specific training. So if they're buying a house, they have to go through a home ownership program. If they're wanting to build or expand a company, they have to do things like write a business plan and get business counseling through intermediaries all over the state. You'll learn a little bit more about that from Annette in a moment. And and Sabrina Blackett is also here. She's the program administrator for VITA. She's over 20 years of experience working here at DHCD. And if you're interested in VITA, certainly contact me or Sabrina or even Annette. And our third initiative is our community business launch. Our community business launch is a place-based initiative to get access to a new and growing entrepreneurs to move into vacant storefronts and available spaces in a walkable neighborhood. So it's structured where everybody goes through a small business education, and at the end there's a pitch competition, and winners will be able to get a small grant to move into those spaces. I can't tell you how catalytic it is for 3 to 5 new companies to open up in a small geographic area. Talk about creating excitement and hope that I was talking about just a minute ago in a relatively small walkable environment. And Jessica is our program administrator for CBL, and CBL is actually open. If you have an idea and you want to learn, and you have an idea about an initiative and you want to take part in CBL, these applications are open until the 28th of April. We actually have our How to Apply workshop is on our website. And if you're interested, contact Jessica, because she can help you walk through that grant process. So the next thing that I like to do, I was thinking that it would take us until about 11:30 or so, but I guess I'm talking a little fast today. But what I'd like to do is take a second to introduce Leah Freeman. Leah's going to talk to you about Bridging Virginia and the Virginia Small Business Resiliency Fund initiative that is helping Bridging Virginia get started. So Leah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so everybody can see you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me today. And I see some familiar names and faces on the call today. So I'm glad that you're here to learn more about what we can do across the state, especially supporting the small business community and the placemaking initiatives. Most of you know me from my role at Virginia Community Capital. I'm the Senior Vice President and Director of Community Innovation there. And me and the team that I'm part of work across the state to provide technical assistance and support services like many other CDFIs. As Chris talked about CDFIs and kind of the work that we're built to do, part of the money also comes with grant funded support services and things. And so that's the team that I'm part of and know most of you through. The hat I am wearing today is actually as a board member of Bridging Virginia, which is a literally brand new, like a month or two ago, community development loan fund. That is a nonprofit loan fund. It is not a CDFI yet. We will be using the resources from DHCD to explore whether that is part of our growth plan and business strategy as a lending institution that wants to do kind of more creative and innovative things with capital, all within the eyes of like, what are the needs in the state, in our communities to fund business owners, projects, et cetera. So CDFI, being a CDFI is possibly part of our path, but the resources through DHCD will help us explore that as a new nonprofit. As a board member, I was around when we were a group of volunteers that during COVID leveraged resources as guarantees to a credit union's lending. And so at that point in time in 2020, there was a group of volunteers that pulled together about $100,000, and through the Virginia Credit Union actually did the lending, and then the Bridging Virginia money offset some of that perceived risk so that the lending institution could give the loan to the COVID impacted business. Once we got through that, we as a board kind of went through do we need another nonprofit? I don't know. Are we actually serving anybody differently than the existing capital providers? And based on, one, coming out of COVID, two, our initial focus on the Black-owned business community in Richmond, and some of the work that we had been doing with technical assistance around our borrowers, we asked that question. I mean, the last thing any of us wanted to do was start another nonprofit. And what we did find through very intentional outreach and key partners like the Metropolitan Business League, the Jackson Ward Collective, and some other key kind of leaders in the Richmond market, they said, yes, actually, your money and the way that this Bridging Virginia wants to support smaller loans, microloans, is different than LISC or another type of micro provider, a Kiva loan or something like that. So that gave us enough momentum to actually establish a nonprofit as an entity, and then explore funding resources like the pot of money at DHCD. So now that we are a real organization, what we will continue to do is absolutely support the startup or the micro space. We currently do not do any direct lending, but we don't have any infrastructure. And so that's where the partnership with the financial institution was really important, because we're using all of their infrastructure, but also our money is actually helping them, say yes to the deal. And so we'll stay in that space currently as we figure out how to do more direct lending to the businesses that need smaller size money. I don't know how young we will go in the sense of the business's age. The startup community and the micro space is definitely a gap in any part of the state. And so how do we support that with the resources that we have? And honestly, as a new organization, we don't have a lot of bureaucracy and things yet. So I think the board and the leadership are excited to try different things and use things that are different than credit scores and collateral to kind of underwrite businesses and get them the capital that they deserve, or that they need to grow. The other thing, and this is way down the road, but as sectors like cannabis and hemp and these kind of ag-based economic opportunities come into Virginia in a more scalable way. How can we support business owners and even producers in those types of sectors where other banks and organizations can't? So that's where we're starting. Like I said, we're brand new. The money that got through the General Assembly not only helped us get started, but programs at People Advantage Credit Union, Freedom First Credit Union, LISC, some other groups also are going to benefit and do more lending in a way that they haven't been able to do before. So we really appreciate the support at DHCD and honestly conversations like this, because the more of you that know about community development lending and Cdfi's and are asking for this industry to be healthier in the state, the more we can do across the board. So thank you for giving us time today.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. That's exactly why I wanted you to come and chat today, because you're right. Like creating a new nonprofit, we all sometimes are just kind of like, ugh. But what you had said was so important. Not only did you listen to what the community needs in a way that was good for them and help them feel heard, but also you do it with other partners and you collaborate in order to create something new, to help funding flow in a new and different way to people that are largely left out. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to talk today, because talking about the traditional ways that capital is being accessed, a lot of times it feels like there's initially a barrier that we only can play in that kind of old school economic development, traditional loans playground, right? Mm-hmm. But we actually have the capability to create new things when they're needed and they're done intentionally, and have some funding to do it too. So we can create new ways.
Yeah, and I will say, core VCC's DNA, and a lot of us in this room right now, is partnership. Yes. And so efficiency in partnership and cohesiveness in partnership is where we are all starting, but in the sense of what Bridging Virginia has set up for its ability to be helpful is that Bridging Virginia is actually paying for half of a salary of someone that is staffed at the Metropolitan Business League. And so both organizations need someone in the market that is working with business owners, as the salespeople would say, driving pipeline, where's the lending pipeline? So success around that looks like someone in the market, drumming up activity. And so MBL needed more capacity. They have a Kiva program that they've launched. As I said, Bridging Virginia is a baby. It doesn't even have an employee yet. But we had some resources that we could share. And so now this Sharon is staffed at MBL, benefits and all of that through that organization. We pay for half of her salary and plan to for years. This isn't a one-time thing. This is a partnership. And then so MBL is her manager, but she is also, because we're another capital tool that is different than the Kiva money or different than a VCC loan, Sharon is also going to be helpful in driving loans to the other capital providers. And so again, that partnership and efficiency, is where we want to start and what we want to continue to do. I try to remember that it's amazing what you can get done if you don't care about who gets credit for it.
Yes.
And so there's a version of that mindset in here. And in fact, Bridging Virginia, we have a website, but we don't have any social media. We're kind of fine being a quiet partner because that's our value right now, and so just kind of thinking with that mindset. And as you're looking at partners, sometimes for me, it's not lost on me that I'm a white lady sitting here talking about supporting Black businesses. Mm-hmm. And our board is split demographically, in the race dynamic. So what organization should be leading this work in the Richmond market? Well, it's not Bridging Virginia, it's MBL. And so how, as a quiet partner, how do we support that type of work? Because it's from the community, they're in the community, so we have to be we're thinking about that, whose logo needs to be on the front of this, even if there's 5 of us involved. It has to make sense for the community and the impact outcome that you're trying to work towards. And so we try to keep that in mind at VCC as well. I don't know that we always do a great job of it, but I feel like we've been willing to not have our logo on things, or initially kind of start something and then slowly, I like to say slowly back out of the room as we're not needed anymore because we're not from the area, so we try to keep that mindset. Again, it doesn't always work, but I think thinking about that as you're partnering would be important on the front side. So everybody's on the same page about why that logo is in front and somebody else's isn't, to put it kind of crassly.
Thank you so much, Leah. And like I said, all of these are hot links. So whenever you get this this slide deck in your email, probably tomorrow, there's a hot link to Leah's LinkedIn profile. So, and if there's any other information that you'd like us to add, Leah, please let us know. All right. And what was the name of Leah's organization? Oh, the one that she's talking about is Bridging Virginia. It was really big on the screen a second ago. All right. You're welcome. And again, thank you, Leah. I'd also like to introduce Annette Patterson. Annette runs the Advancement Foundation, and the Advancement Foundation is a rock star in all of the communities in which they are in. But Annette's going to talk a little bit about her experience with our CBL initiative as well as VITA. So take us away, Annette. It's all you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I loved your slide where you at the end said, be patient. That is something that I think really is important. And I think learning and growing as you go, I was looking at who was on the call, you know, Sabrina, Chris Kane, Rebecca Rowe, Jessica, Courtney, Leah, Doug Jackson. Hi, Doug. We have to get together for lunch. You know, we have grown up, you know, professionally and as an organization with all of you. And I think about our starting in this space. CBL was really the entree for us into this aspect of community development. We were founded in 2007 and doing lots of different things to convene nonprofits who were doing really great things, helping citizens move forward and build strategies that connected us all. And so we did a lot of strategic planning back in the early days. But as we, of course, continued to learn and grow from the people we were serving and the organizations we were serving, we recognized that business development is, you know, it's the great leveler, right? You know, anybody can start a business. It doesn't matter what your education, how much money you have. You know, if you've got a good idea and you're willing to learn and grow and access resources, you know, you can make amazing things happen. I also feel very strongly that way about real estate and home ownership. So kind of meshes with everything that we're doing. But so the foundation, you know, we started in about 2014, 15. I think we were the second round of CBL. And we started in the little town of Vinton. And again, you know, we knew a little something about business development, and we put a group together and started developing connections with business leaders in the community that could help advise our entrepreneurs. And we surveyed every class that we've had. We call our program the Gauntlet. Every class we've had, we survey our participants, what their needs are, how they feel about, you know, understanding the business aspects of whatever they're passionate about, whatever they're trying to launch or grow. And so we kept seeing, you know, one, they needed knowledge, like that was really critical. A lot of them felt like they just didn't have everything they needed at their fingertips. They didn't understand everything they needed to, even if they had, you know, incredible educational backgrounds and were working in industry, working in corporations or industry for 20 years, they would come and say, I really have no idea how to start a business. So programming the actual learning of how you run a business was really important. The second most important thing was money. You know, they really, it's been said over and over, you know, a new and early stage company in particular has no access to bank financing unless, you know, they have collateral like a house and things like that they want to put up. So that was, you know, that was another important thing. And then the third thing was, you know, networking, being around like-minded people, and not feeling like you were an island out there. So we developed programs. The Gauntlet was our first CBL, and it was phenomenal. I mean, the power of that program to ignite a community and to get people rowing in the same direction. And we've worked in over 35 communities. And I would say in 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it's really not that people don't want to work together. It's just they don't have a platform for it. Everybody's in their little silos doing their little goals and working on their little things that they're supposed to do. And it takes time to build trust, to build relationships, to build something that you can share with somebody else. And so CBL was a great way to launch that. And again, I'd like to say I understood all that. I mean, I remember Doug talking to me about this stuff, and it was like, whoo. But I learned, and the staff learned, we all learned, our volunteers learned, our communities have learned. And so, figuring all of that out and understanding the power of trust and giving other people credit and engaging everybody was really, really important in our learning curve there at the beginning. So our first CBL led to us expanding the next year. So we went from like the town of Vinton, then we included Roanoke County, then we included Roanoke City and Botetourt and Allegheny and Franklin and Floyd and Martinsville and Rockbridge and all the cities and towns in between, Bedford. And so, we've just slowly built out this incredible network. So in the process of doing that, of course, each year we're a nonprofit, so we raise money. We have had years where there's been CBL money, like that first year we started. The next year we didn't have any CBL communities, and so we raised a lot of money, and we've just been growing that slowly. So we went from 30 entrepreneurs. Our largest class has been 170, which was COVID, of course, and we were operating in 6 different localities. We had 6 different classes going on every Tuesday night, in 6 different localities. And we were halfway through our program when we, saw the writing on the wall, March 13th, Friday the 13th. And we had to take 170 entrepreneurs, some of whom were in localities like Buchanan, where they did not have great internet. And so we had to find places where they could go to be on class. We had to learn how the heck to do this class thing online. And so this year we have 153 entrepreneurs in the program. We're all completely virtual with the exception of networking events that we have. But it's phenomenal because we're able to connect entrepreneurs across the region, cross-regionally, and mentors. So we built a mentor network as well. But that new and early stage, whether that's Main Street, whether that's people who are, doing micro business out of their garage, or whether that's even high growth companies. And there's a lot of discussion across the state about our need to grow the number of high growth companies we have. But when we looked at the marketplace, there really was no support or no pathway for them, no clear pathway for them, those early stage high growth companies, and obviously no capital for them as well. So that's one of the places where we've really settled. So focusing on developing out programs, developing out resources, and finding all of the pockets. And then most recently in the last, I would say, 10 years, we've gotten involved in placemaking activities, which has been really exciting to us too. But you talk about collaboration, and that was one of the things that we decided very early on was critically important. Figuring out where the resources are and being sort of an intermediary to helping people go through those pathways or identify those pathways. And quite frankly, working very closely with DHCD on knowing who the entrepreneurs were coming through our programs and the talent that they had and the grit that they had and what their needs were, and being able to say, hey, we could put these different things together. So they might go through the gauntlet and get grant money in their award package, or even in kind, like a free website or a free whatever. But then where do we go from there? So then, we got very involved in the VITA program several years ago. And I think we've done 3, and hopefully it'll be 4 VITA programs, and they're phenomenal. I mean, the idea that you get to know somebody through programming, and you work with your localities, you work with the SBDC, you work with the SCORE groups that, where they are. We work with the community colleges and the colleges and universities, and identifying these folks. And we can decide, okay, let's see who would qualify for a micro loan at this point, who would qualify based on their income, and we gather all this data, by the way, when they apply for our programs, who would be eligible potentially for a VITA program. Where are we running a VITA program right now? We've got one in Floyd, we've got one in Roanoke, town of Vinton, Roanoke City. So all of those things. We're able to partner with DHCD and other agencies and create pots of money that we can piece together. And the interesting thing that's evolving, which I love, is, this is our 8th year running Gauntlet. So we have individuals who came through the Gauntlet years ago who continually participate in the Gauntlet. They'll mentor now, they'll volunteer, they'll donate in kind, they'll donate cash, whatever, but they get involved, and they continue to grow, and they have new needs. So the idea of what Leah was talking about with the microloans and, getting involved in hemp. I mean, we have so many hemp companies that are doing phenomenal things. And I'm not just talking about CBD. I'm talking about hempcrete. I'm talking about we have a baker that is using hemp protein in her baked goods, and she can reduce the sugar by 2/3. And it actually tastes a little too sweet still. Imagine what that could do that would be a great disruptor, right? I mean, sugar companies would hate us, but to be able to use hemp protein in your foods to reduce sugar, it accentuates whatever flavors are in whatever it's being used for. So, all of those things are, being able to keep our fingers on the pulse of where are these pots of money and how can we direct our entrepreneurs to go through that. So it's been an incredibly exciting journey to be able to be a part of watching the ecosystem grow, watching organizations that connect effectively, and to be a part of that. And DHCD has really truly been at the center of not only, the philosophy and the vision, but also bringing us along, bringing all of us along to be able to see that bigger vision and to be able to see where we can plug in and connect with other people. So it's been, just incredibly powerful. And the stories of the talent that we have found across the Roanoke Valley, the Shenandoah Valley, the New River Valley is phenomenal. And if these entrepreneurs, every single one of them would tell you, if we hadn't found this network, I wouldn't know this, I wouldn't know that, I wouldn't be connected with this person or that person. The economic developers are engaged. These economic development departments, even Roanoke County, they're 2 people, if you're lucky, and they are supposed to be working on bringing big business in. And what happens to the little guys and what happens to the potential high growth businesses? That's up to us in this ecosystem to help that happen. And the last thing I'll say is, we have to do a better job of telling that narrative. Sometimes when we're in the trenches, I know for our team, going from, classes every night for 10 weeks and then the big award ceremony and some of the placemaking projects that we're launching, it is so easy for us to just keep running and running and running and running. We are really focused this year on getting that narrative out, because that's all you have to do. When you get that narrative out, this area, our ecosystem is powerful, and we can attract and retain our talent if they understand what's wrapped around them in business development. And so we're partnering with WSLS and we're partnering with Blue Ridge PBS to start telling those narratives, and narratives from everything from a cupcake shop in Main Street to wireless power that's being developed, or a hempcrete industry that's going to be launched. It's incredible, and it's incredible what it can do for our community when we just work together and find ways that everybody wins. I think that's it. If anybody has any questions.
Annette, thank you so much. I did want to say a couple of things about specifically with VITA. We're actually hopefully next summer-ish, we'll be able to launch a new match savings program. So what we're going to be doing is completely revamping VITA to really meet the needs of folks who need to build wealth now. Because the world has changed a lot in the last 2 years. And so what we're going to be doing is start listening to our intermediaries and taking a look how we can be a little bit more flexible, versatile, and increase the amount of funding through our matched savings program. So again, Annette, thank you so much for sharing what you guys have been doing. And you're absolutely right about telling the stories. I know I ran a loan fund in the Shenandoah Valley for quite some time, and I could totally understand keeping your head down and doing all the things, right? And it seems like telling those stories are the fun extra part, which it is fun, but it's not the extra part, right? What we need to be doing is highlighting them, showing what we do.
Yeah.
Sure, people want to talk to me. Sure, they want to see what we do through our people.
Yep.
Our people is what makes it so important. Our people are the ones who make it interesting. Our people are the ones who are on the ground changing systems within their communities through their businesses. They're helping us solve social problems all over the Commonwealth. Yep. What we need to be able to do is tell those stories. Yep. And but yeah, thank you so much, Annette. Are you going to be able to stay? We're going to try to wrap up. And I know we said 12:15, but that was more for layover if we needed. But if you can stay on for a little bit, Annette, if there's any questions, well, actually there is questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I could stay.
Ooh, excuse me. And I love what you said about surveying and listening to the participants in your ecosystem. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go back to those 4 questions I had earlier. I want to just create a discussion on how funding is either working or not working for your communities. And then I'm also going to have some follow-up questions that I want you guys to think about after today. And then we'll send out a follow-up survey so you guys can fill out that survey and tell us what's happening on the ground, because we want to know what you guys are doing so we can help make sure that our programs are meeting your needs in the same way that you need to be nimble and meeting the needs of the entrepreneurs in which you serve. So bear with me for just a second. All right, so I'm going back to those 4 questions. What kinds of funding for businesses do your community have? Is it banks? Is it Aunt Marge, right? Our entrepreneurs can't find the access to capital that they need and go to a friend or a family member. Are they saving money? Tell us a little bit about what's working and what isn't working. What are the gaps to the needs that your communities have, and how can DHCD help? So this is a fantastic time to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about what kind of funding do businesses in your communities currently have. And I can stop sharing too. So so I can see people as well. So what kind of funding do you have for businesses in your communities?
And there are a couple people on the call, I think, that have done community business launch in the past. So I'd be interested to see after that influx of CBL funding, if the gap continued to be filled or what other resources have become available since then.
Does anyone here have a community loan fund or a CDFI in their area that's helping getting access to capital? Annette, you were saying that localities have low interest loans and private donations for awards. Chelsea, where are you from?
I'm sorry, Prince Edward County.
So whenever you say IDA, you're actually talking not an individual development account, right?
No, sorry, Industrial Development Authority.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I need a legend to be able to make sense of all the acronyms. And Chelsea, what is the size of the revolving loan pool, and who gets access to that? Is it in a specific geographic area?
It's for Prince Edward County. So it's typically going to be manufacturing companies that I've seen. I haven't been in the position for a long time. It's only been about a year, but just in terms of what I've seen, and just to say, I'm the Director of Economic Development and Tourism. So I'm the clerk to the IDA board. So it would typically be, our different manufacturing companies when they need loans for machinery and equipment and things like that to expand.
Great, thank you. Terry, can I ask you a little bit about the EDC's revolving loan fund?
We got the revolving loan fund several years ago, and we offer to businesses, small businesses that we work with. We have, we started out giving all the money, not I, but someone else, giving all the money to like 5 or 6 different small businesses. And they have all, well, 5, all but one have paid off. And since then, we have offered another small business who is currently paying. And then when COVID hit, we loaned out small micro loans of like $1,500 interest free, just to keep them afloat during COVID. I don't really have anybody asking for, they know that we have the revolving loan fund, but they really don't ask for money. Most of the people I deal with are looking for like free startup grant money, and it's just not out there.
Yeah.
But the most we offer is like 10 to 15,000 for a business previously. It could change. I mean, if I had someone come in today, it could go in front of a committee and they could offer more than that. But that's what we have right now. So.
And Terry, can you tell us what EDC means?
Economic Development Corporation. I'm with the Allegheny Highlands.
Okay. And Terry, I have a question for you. You said that most businesses were looking for grants, offering startup dollars, and those aren't available by and large. And do you have an idea as to why it's grants and not, say, a loan fund that is currently available, like a small loan that's currently available?
Well, they're looking for free money. Because I mean, I don't know a majority of the reasons, but they're, that it's hard for a small business to start up. They struggle. And, we live in a rural community, and yet some of our landlords have outrageous monthly rentals that there's no way a small business could start up. and pay that and do all that they have to do to get a business started. So
taking out a loan is risky.
I'm sorry.
So taking out a loan can be very risky.
Yes. And I mean, I have a gentleman right now that has paid cash for everything to get his business started, but still yet he came to me looking for some free grant money. Everybody thinks there's free grant money out there to start a business.
I'm dating myself a little bit, but do you guys remember the infomercial guy that had all the dollar signs on his jacket? You guys remember him?
Yes. So he, you know, he's like, I've paid cash to get where I'm at now. And, you know, that he's really moving forward with his business, and it's going to cost him quite a bit of money, but he is, I guess, just terrified to take out a loan. So, and not because he couldn't pay it, I'm sure, because he's doing very well at what he does, but he just doesn't want to, you know, take out. He's got a lot on his plate right now to move forward, but he's moving right along.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Terry. Will, are you still on, Will? Yes, Will, you are. I loved what you put in the chat about this year. It's the 4th year of CBL, and this year you're in a partnership with 2 banks offering credit line opportunities in connection with CBL. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That is super interesting.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I work for the River District Association. We're in Danville, and we do a CBL type of program. I actually joined on in September, so this is my first year helping manage the program, but it's the 4th year that we've been managing it, and this is kind of the first year where we partner with 2 banks in our area who are offering credit line opportunities to folks who complete the boot camp classes and then want to pitch as well. So it's a cool partnership, and it's kind of interesting because the banks are more risk averse. So it's we're curious to see how it'll go this year, but at least that opportunity is there and the partnership is there. And you know, depending on who comes to pitch in April, we think there's a good chance that some businesses could have access to a credit line that, you know, they may not have had without the CBL program. So it's a good partnership. It's the first year we're kind of navigating it, and gonna see how it goes in April when people decide to pitch.
Well, thank you so much for that. That is, I love seeing that kind of collaboration with, you know, funding stacking. And St. Paul, can you tell us a little bit about how the DIG grant and CBL all kind of work together? And then what we're going to do is I have one more slide to share with you guys for some follow-up questions. And then when I send you guys the presentation, you'll have a few slides of resources that are available to you guys. So St. Paul, can you tell us a little bit?
Yes, this is Kathy Stewart from St. Paul. We had the CBL in 2018, and several successful businesses emerged with some expansions and some new businesses, and those businesses are still expanding. Just recently, one of those bought a new building, went from renting to buying a new building and expanding in their services. They used a bank loan for the building to purchase the building. Other businesses did take advantage of the downtown investment grant. It was a small pool that we got during COVID, and we used that for some loans and grants for some other businesses that had not participated in the CBL. So that's been helpful with that money. That's filling back up now. And we are, hopefully we'll be ready to turn around with that because all the money went out pretty quick. We had $25,000 and we gave out $5,000 loans. So that's starting to come back in, and we're hoping we'll be able to turn that back around soon. The IDA here in town also will secure a loan that is received from a local bank up to a certain point with a low percentage rate. So several businesses have done that as well. We have several participating in that. Did that answer your question?
That certainly does. I don't know if you guys can see me kind of nodding and saying, oh my goodness, that's super awesome. And all right, well, there's a couple more things that I'd like to share with you guys. And because I know that I'm standing in the way of you in lunch, and I understand how important that is. But I am going to send a follow-up survey to you guys too. It's one of the things that Annette was talking about, how important it is to hear from your stakeholders, and you guys are certainly stakeholders of DHCD. So I'm going to send you a survey to not only have those 4 or those 3 questions that I asked a moment ago to spur this conversation, but also how willing and ready is your community to start having more in-depth conversations about how dollars flow in and around it? Who are the players in your ecosystem? And if you can't identify the players, identify the barriers that are keeping people from coming together. And again, how can DHCD help? So you guys will be receiving a survey along with the recording and the slideshow deck in the next couple of days. There are some subsequent slides with some resources. We're going to continue these conversations throughout the summer and fall. All these are hot links to talk about ecosystem building and capital resources. We've got some grant deadlines coming up, including CBL on the 28th. Our Community Vitality Grant closes on the 28th. DIG also on the 28th, and the IRF has a couple of different due dates as well. So like I said, you guys can find all of this on our website. And also, I want to make sure that you guys know that the Main Street Now conference, the National Main Street Conference, is being held in Richmond, May the 16th through 18th. So register. And not only can you register today, but you can also, Kyle, is there still opportunities to volunteer?
Oh, yes, there's still opportunities to volunteer. You betcha. So if you go to Virginia Main Street, well, heck, I'll just do this. I'm going to stick a link in the chat box now. But just know that if you volunteer for roughly 8 hours or more, it does go a little bit below that. So we're not looking at 8 purely as the threshold, by the way. But if you volunteer, that's a $160 discount off of registration. And there is a clear and very strong message of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the sessions that are provided, as one of the themes is centered on Main Street and the new economy, post-pandemic type stuff. So there's definitely going to be a lot of great information out there relevant to your communities and to your burgeoning, your growing entrepreneurial ecosystem. So here's some information I'm going to pop in right now. Thanks for bringing that up, Chris.
Sure. All right. On behalf of DHCD's Microfinance program, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we'll have a wide variety of not only webinars, but some in real life strategic planning meetings coming up in the next month to really do a much deeper dive into how to get access to capital throughout the Commonwealth. So, okay, thank you guys so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.